Hello and welcome to another episode of Panel on Panels, the podcast about all things comics and comics related. I'm your host, John Campbell. Sitting next to me, Mike Gorgoni.
Yes, I am indeed Mike Gorgoni.
And sitting next to him, Donovan Eilert.
Jumbo. Everybody.
What's Jumbo?
It's Swahili.
Swahili?
Swahili.
Wow.
You don't speak Swahili?
No, I don't.
Really?
It's one of the few gaps in my foreign language. I know
yeah.
everything else. I don't know Swahili, though.
I was referencing the
Really?
new A-Team movie, but okay.
Oh, yeah. No, I know what you're talking about. Now I do.
You don't speak? All right.
Yeah,
Now, Donovan, say another word in Swahili. Oh, wow.
No,
don't even know.
Hey, I was sorry.
boy.
I was
Oh,
clearing
boy.
my
I mean,
throat. I was clearing my throat for.
Oh,
Sure.
we're in trouble now.
I was gonna give you a line from the Lion King in Swahili, but you guys really you went through stereotypes. I don't
No, what you did is went with Gods Must Be Crazy.
Yes, which is really what I know of Swahili culture or Africa in general. So, gosh, I love that movie.
It's all...
I knew somebody who, for their anthropology final, that's what they watched.
Gods must be crazy.
In
my
college. They're like, all right, we're done with the class. We're going to watch The Gods Must Be Crazy.
Just to derail everything you've learned over the last
Sure.
semester.
Oh,
That
that's
is amazing. I can't believe it.
Great
Anthropology
movie.
So comic books.
Comic books.
Comic books.
I don't
Comic
read
books.
comic books. No.
I just
must be
watched
in the wrong
The Gods
place.
Must Be Crazy over and over again.
I thought this was a podcast devoted to the gods must be crazy. No? Oh, I got to go, guys.
The pod must be crazy.
Yes, that's exactly what it would be.
Well, we know what our spinoff is going to be.
Finally. We've had so many spin-offs already in just in a few episodes.
One day we will make them all.
Oh, man. Yeah, look forward to that. That's going to take a lot of work. Today's topic is villains.
Villains.
The bad guys.
Love me some bad guys.
Oh, yeah, the big bads. So, right,
Well, let's not go crazy.
no, we're going to be talking about some of the small bads, too.
Love me my small bads.
No, but we're talking about the guys who make it hell for our comic book heroes. The guys who create the stories in a lot of ways.
They're
'cause
the ones who make the
conflict.
stories interesting.
Yeah, exactly. We're talking villains. We're talking the necessary evil.
Well, some of them consider themselves the necessary evil.
Well, but I'm going to say they're the necessary evil because without, as we just said, there's no story without them.
where is the light if not for the dark?
Exactly.
Wow, very philosophical here.
Ooh, boy.
Wow.
You'd be nothing without me.
Exactly. No, I mean, it's true. It's very true. I would love it if Batman just was like, yeah, no, you're great.
You know, Joker, you bring up a lot of good
Thank
points.
you
You
very
got
much.
me there.
I never
You
knew
got
that.
me there. That's true. So we're talking about villains, guys. What do you look for in a villain? What makes a good villain?
Spiky hair,
Yeah, well, that's a must.
gloves,
Of course.
fingerless or not.
Yeah, either
kind of
way.
optional.
Yeah.
Cape, preferably half cape. Mm-hmm. I love me a good half cape. Boots of some kind.
Yeah.
Pants, optional.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, there's some Solomon Grundy where he's kind of rocking the man thong. If we go back to Super Friends.
Sure.
I like catchphrases.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
that's
Good
usually.
catchphrase. Such famous catchphrases being...
You shall rue the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's perfect.
And that's attributed to who?
All
All of
I'm going to
them.
go with Lex Luthor probably the most.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do feel like he says a lot of that kind of...
Superman. Or Spider-Man.
Yeah, they can't see it, but you're lifting
Batman.
You're lifting
Yeah,
your fist
the
into the air.
lifting the fist is implied.
I was going to say, though, that's really important to me,
I
too.
believe, what was it?
It's a fist shaking.
In high school, we were attempting to come up with a punctuation.
A punctuation that
to
implies
represent
the shaking
of a fist.
We've never been able
No,
to nail
can't
that,
quite
really.
nail it. Nuh-uh.
There's an exclamation point is part of it.
Yes,
But it's-
certainly.
That's not enough.
Not quite there.
No. It's an indignant rage.
And if we could figure that out, I think we could write the perfect villain.
Oh, I think so. Yeah. That would just be on his chest, emblazoned
Right.
as a symbol, would be that punctuation.
And then Captain whatever
Yeah.
that punctuation is then
Captain
called.
Angry Fist. No, that sounds like a really bad porn name.
That's
Yikes.
got really strange there.
We are off the rails already.
Could be a villain as well.
Oh, no. He's definitely a villain. But, yeah. Not in the way you think, though.
What about you, John? What do you look for in?
You know, I think a good villain, a lot of my favorite villains tend to be a mirror image of the hero in some manner.
So your only good villain is Bizarro.
No. Not literally a mirror image. Not literally a mirror. Some kind of twisted abstraction of the hero in some kind of way. You think about characters going beyond comics, somebody like the Master on Doctor Who. or to take it to an even different extent, the exact opposite of the hero.
Some kind of reverse Flash?
Well, yes, why not? And I mean,
Interesting.
there's that great line in a movie I love, Unbreakable, when Samuel Jackson's yelling at Bruce Willis. You know how you can tell the villain in a comic book, he's the hero's exact opposite. You look at somebody like the Joker.
Yeah.
Do you think that's like the arch nemesis level? Because there's definitely
I think
villains in comics. Like you look at Mirror Master.
No, I think that
And
Mirror
I wouldn't-
Master is literally the mirror image of somebody.
Yeah, but he's not.
No.
Of the Flash. I mean, I would say the Reverse Flash would be
Right.
more to.
No, that's exactly what I'm saying. I think that is the arch nemesis, the Moriarty to the Sherlock Holmes.
So you're looking for the big bad. You're looking
I'm
for
talking
the,
about the central. I'm talking about the arch nemesis, the Green Goblin to Spider-Man. You know?
Sure.
Joker.
Yeah,
But it's interesting because you bring up
Lex
the Joker
Luthor to
as
Superman.
an arch nemesis, and he definitely is. But I don't necessarily think of him as the exact opposite of Batman. Maybe in some respects, like Batman is all about control, whereas
order, justice, and he's anarchy and chaos.
right. But they both come from a similar like unhingement followed by violence.
Well, then in that case, he's back to the Dark Mirror kind of.
Yeah.
He's Batman without the rules. He's just chaos.
They're a fork in the road, and one goes one way and one goes the other way.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely true, and I think that's why the Joker. I think a character we have to just start talking about right now is the Joker.
Yeah, because in prep for this, you asked us to prepare like a list of our favorite villains.
Right.
And
I'm assuming the Joker's on everyone's.
actually, I left two villains off of my list on purpose because I knew they would be like the two central bad guys that always end up being discussed.
We'll get to the other one,
Okay.
but let's start with the Joker.
The Joker
because
is
I put
the
the
first
Joker
villain.
at the very bottom of mine just to be
Sure.
like, well, of course we're going to talk about the Joker.
See, I didn't put him on knowing we would have talked about him.
Right.
I think we all had the same idea because, of course, and I think this is a great place to start because probably the best villain in comics, really. I'm gonna go
I
on a
don't
limb and
think-
say for me he's the greatest villain
Okay,
that comic books
because
have given
that
us.
would, I mean, this abrupt statement would bring me to the second villain that
All
I
right.
left off
well,
my list.
when we finish. Let's get to that next.
Okay.
But the Joker.
But the Joker, I think, is a great villain because he is like the embodiment of chaos.
Right.
And the fact that he is so unpredictable, but at the same time possesses such a manic genius as to he conceives of chaos and can contrive of it.
Right. There's that line in The Dark Knight about how he doesn't have a plan, but he totally does.
Right,
He's lying.
exactly.
Like, I mean, that's the other thing I love about the Joker. He lies a lot. What's his backstory? I mean, The Dark Knight, once again, does a great job of the different backstories. There's inconsistencies in who he is and where he's from.
Well, and one thing I was going to bring up because I knew we were going to get to the Joker is the Joker's only really good because of who Batman is. Because if Batman didn't have the whole "I'm not going to kill people" thing, like the Joker's not that good of a villain. He gets caught each and every single time. He gets out, which is great. But if Batman were to ever snap his neck, finish everything, then that's the end of
Right.
Joker. And
I keep talking about Dark Knight because I think it does such a great job of like distilling what that is, that relationship. But there's that great line that the Joker has about you're never going to kill me out of some misplaced sense of honor, and I'm never going to kill you because you're too much fun.
Right. One of my favorite Joker, at least interactions, maybe not necessarily overall Joker stories, but is Kevin Smith's
Cacophony?
Cacophony.
Yeah.
That interaction they have between one another when like Joker's strapped to the bed at the end of that comic where he's just like Batman straight up asks him like, if I was gone, if you actually killed me, what would you do? He's like, I'd probably stop.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, Joker without Batman is just like, there's no point anymore. I'm going to shut down.
Well, this is
There's that great moment in Dark Knight Returns where, like, Joker's in the asylum. He's shut down for all these years because Batman's been gone. He sees that Batman's back, and you just see that spark light back up in his eyes, like, oh, shit.
I can't remember if this is in the comic or if it's just in the animated movie, but there's also a thing in that where he hasn't spoken. the
Yes,
whole
no,
time.
that's definitely a thing
And
in
so
the
that's in the
comic as well.
comic, too. And you just hear the Batman.
Yeah. I believe in the comic it's like, darling, like is what
Yeah.
the first word is. Like, he's just like, this is the guy he's in love with.
Right,
There's a
it's true.
sick, twisted love that the Joker
Which,
has for him.
we bring up this run a lot, but Scott Snyder's Batman
Oh,
run
man.
perfectly brings that up. I mean, he monologues
Yeah.
for a whole thing about how I'm like we're the love story of this comic.
I want to bring out the best in you.
Right.
And that's why I'm doing this.
Your family of sidekicks, they're holding you back.
Exactly.
I want to let you be Batman.
right.
Which is such twisted and weird logic, but it also like makes some kind of perverse sense at the same time.
For the Joker, anyway.
Right, exactly. Like, I mean, like I can follow his logic from his standpoint. I mean, I don't agree with it at all, but
Right.
But I'm saying, like, I see, like, okay, I see where he's coming from, and he's totally insane. I mean, the other thing too, that there's such terror with the Joker that I love, and that comic also does a great job of that when he comes back,
Yes.
and he shows up in the Gotham Police Department.
Oh,
and
man.
when Gordon sees him, and it's just like a no.
Right.
No, not this guy.
When the lights go out and the Joker's loose, it's just
Yeah.
like, oh shit!
And it's just the
there's literally a wild animal in here somewhere.
the muzzle flash is showing up and nobody's hitting him and everybody's dead. Like
Right.
it's just like, oh man, yeah, a wild animal. I think is exactly the thing. He's a mad dog. He calls himself that in Dark Knight. Mm-hmm. He's just he's just an uncontrolled. Even Harley's terrified of him in that.
It's interesting because you get to certain villains like Galactus, who are a force of nature less than a malevolent force.
Right.
They don't necessarily have direction. The Joker has direction, and his north is always going to be Batman.
Right. He's not a sociopath in that he understands what he's doing is wrong. I think. Do you think he's?
He's a psychopath.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
he has an understanding of right and wrong, and he's choosing wrong.
See, I don't know if they've never explicitly said that, so I don't know.
I mean, I get the sense that he knows that he shouldn't be doing what he's doing.
I think in an abstract way, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think he necessarily cares, which also makes him a sociopath.
No, I think that's exactly the case as well. No, he certainly has that as well. But I think he does comprehend what he's doing. I mean, I think I heard something Scott Snyder said about it, that he just writes him as the devil.
Yeah.
He's just evil. Like he's he's not even. It goes beyond crazy into some sort of
It's
evil force.
in the Dungeons and Dragons alignment chart. He is chaotic evil.
Right.
He's evil for evil's sake.
Yeah, no, I think chaotic evil is a great way to describe him.
Well, and I think some of the best Joker stuff is when he's one step ahead of Batman, because we're used to him just being an annoyance for Batman to go off and do this.
No, he's insanely intelligent,
But
which is-
it doesn't always show.
Right.
Depending on who's writing it, as always.
Sure. But, I mean, the stories that we like are when he kills somebody of the Bat family or Killing Joke, where, you know, he's one step ahead. He knows what his next move is, and he's ahead of Batman. He's catching up.
Right.
As opposed to getting an idea and some explosives,
Right.
and Batman thwarting that. Or
No, he's not a
Now,
terrorist.
poison the
per se.
well. Ha ha.
Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
right. He's not just a random terrorist.
But that's definitely how he was written originally. Like the Joker, what's interesting about the Joker is he has evolved into this
Oh, yeah.
terrifying menace that
Oh,
is
yeah.
the Joker. He definitely did not start out that way.
He was kind of a prankster, really, in the beginning.
He was a Joker.
Yeah, I don't even think he
mean,
killed anybody. At
Best
the start.
interpretation, Cesar Romero. Anybody? The original Batman? I mean,
I really actually enjoy Cesar Romero, but that definitely represents an older style of
sure,
Joker.
and
But
that
that's
was
a
that
fun,
more
that's a fun, performance.
goofy, not
Banana
arch
phone.
nemesis.
Right.
Yeah, banana phone.
Then you get into like the Mark Hamill voice performance.
Ugh, that is
of-
my Joker.
Me too. When I read that character, that's the voice I hear in my head. And I heard Mark Hamill describe that as he's so insane and so filled with insanity, he's taking all of his might to just communicate. And that creates that voice where the craziness is just going to break through, but he has to get this sentence out. You know, I just think that's a great
Like,
read on how that character
if
should
he
sound.
let go, he would be laughing all the time.
Right, and then you'd hear it when he lets go. When he lets
Right.
go, it's such an explosion
Yes.
of insanity.
Oh, where did you hear that? That's an amazing way of hearing it
I
described.
think he said that on the Nerdist. I want to
Huh.
say. I
like that a
definitely
lot.
heard it on some podcast interview.
no,
with
because
him.
that makes total sense.
Right, and I just thought I'm like, of course. And when he said that, I was just like, that's exactly what he's doing. That makes exactly. That made so much sense to me that was the voice of the Joker. So yeah, I mean, I think the Joker, he transcends being. He almost does become this force. He transcends just being a serial killer, just being a terrorist.
No, then that's the thing, though, is I don't necessarily think he does. He is not. He's a force when it comes to Batman.
Right.
Otherwise, he is still just a man, because the discussion we have about villains is like we have these directed malevolences that are at these heroes,
Yeah.
whether they be a personal grudge or because the hero is just getting in their way. But then you have the bad guys like Galactus or
Right.
these literal forces of nature that, the heroes still stop them in the end, but they're going to keep on doing what they're doing regardless of whether
Yeah.
or not the hero is there.
I mean, Galactus is literally a force.
Right, exactly. So describing the Joker as a force of nature, I think, is
I don't describe him as a force of nature, but he's almost an ideal to a certain extent, or like the lack of an ideal.
sure. Whereas Batman is
That's why he's
the ideal.
He's a psychological threat because he represents the lack of rules and justice, and and order and things like
Sure.
that. He's that's why
He's
the
Mad
guy-
Max in one body,
right?
or the world of Mad Max.
The world
not
of
so.
one, yeah. That he just shucks all the rules. If the Joker's in charge, then the world just blows up because there's nothing to control anybody.
One thing that was interesting is as I was preparing for this, I made my list and then kind of went online to see who people considered
Oh, that's interesting.
that. And I mean, we would probably agree that the Joker, is, comic book villains like of all time, he's definitely up there.
He's in the top 2
But on the multiple list, he was not number one.
because you know who number 1 is.
Let's talk about who the next person that you left off your list was.
It's Magneto.
That's what I was going to say. He's number one.
He's very much on my list.
Which is
Yeah.
which is interesting because you think about when you ask people who the number one hero is, not everybody, but most everybody says Batman.
that would be the common answer. Yes.
Batman. But people don't say the Joker. They say Magneto.
It's because of his pathos. It's because of like you totally understand. Like even if you kind of get where the Joker is coming from on a twisted level,
Yeah.
Magneto is completely understandable. He's just
And
like
sympathetic.
If you were in his position, you'd probably be doing the exact same
Totally.
thing.
I mean, he's the opposite of the Joker in that sense.
exactly
He makes all the sense in the world.
right.
His backstory, everything about him. Why wouldn't you become that?
Exactly, and that's what I think
he's
makes him a great
almost
villain.
Not a villain in some
Well,
ways.
not anymore.
Well, no, I mean, he's literally not a villain anymore. But he's so understandable to the point that, I mean, yeah, you have so much sympathy for him that I'm almost like, God, if he wasn't killing all the people on that,
If he wasn't trying to kill all humans,
I would be with him. Like
like if I were a mutant, I'd probably be like. We wonder why the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants keeps getting
Right.
recruits, and that's
Yeah.
because they totally get where he's coming from.
right, he's. Yeah, I mean, there's obviously like the terrorist leader aspect to him,
Right.
But he's an understandable terrorist leader, which is interesting. His ideal, he does strive completely for an ideal, and he's almost justified. Like really, I mean,
Considering how poorly, like I'd be interested to see like a fictional timeline of like who struck first, the mutants or humans.
yeah,
Because there's never going to be an answer to that.
No.
If we go all the way back to Apocalypse, clearly he was outcast, but never mind.
yeah. I don't think Apocalypse made anybody's list.
But it's just like the escalation of no, actually he did not. But I'm just saying because he was the first mutant.
I got it.
If we look at the escalation of conflict between like mutants and humans in the Marvel universe in terms of just like, well, these mutants exist, so we have to build giant killer robots to stop them,
Right.
preemptively.
Yeah.
Which is awesome, by the way, when the animated series starts with that. Like, that's
Yeah.
what you come into. Is
Night of
so
the Sentinels
good.
is the name of the pilot.
Is such a good episode.
And like, yeah,
good.
we're led to like, especially in the show, we're led to assume that like Magneto's been kind of operating before that, and he's part of the reason we get the Sentinels, and that's certainly in a lot of interpretations.
Well, if you go back and read his first appearance, he's just a cackling madman. He's really
Sure.
not that interesting per se. He's just kind of a bad guy.
I actually should have done a little bit more research into this, but when do we get his backstory? Like, when do we get the whole concentration camp thing?
Ooh, that's not till way later.
Right?
Yeah, no,
Huh.
I don't think that's nah. It's got to be Claremont's run. Because if you read, I mean, I haven't read all the Stan Lee stuff, but I've read some of it. Yeah, he's pretty much just evil.
Well, it is called the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants.
Yeah, I mean that.
which is a way cooler title than X-Men.
like he shows up. Yeah, it is.
It's seriously.
yeah.
Like, when you're going to sign up for it blindly.
But like
Brotherhood of
everyone
Evil.
who signs up is like, yeah, I guess I'm evil.
Yeah.
I think
They're okay
just-
with it, and that's cool.
I think they're just the Brotherhood of Mutants now, aren't they?
Yeah,
Yeah,
almost
okay.
like all the modern stuff is like, yeah, there's the
because
Brotherhood.
because number one, who perceives themselves as evil, and certainly not Magneto.
Sabretooth.
No,
Sabretooth does. And that's
Sabretooth
fine.
is a dick, and he knows he's a dick.
So-
he doesn't see himself as evil per se.
You don't think so?
I don't think so.
I think he knows.
I think he loves being an asshole to
down.
Wolverine.
Oh yeah,
I think deep down he knows.
But I don't think he's necessarily like, and he gets off on being an asshole to Wolverine.
Yeah.
But like, given like a free Sunday afternoon, he's just gonna be chilling out watching TV.
now there's a character.
I don't know if that's true.
With Sabretooth, there's certainly a character who's a Dark Mirror character.
Oh, yeah,
of
definitely.
Wolverine.
And there's so many different interpretations of Sabretooth as well
Mm-hmm.
in terms of where he comes from and why he's so antagonistic with Wolverine.
He's been his brother at times. He's been
I
somebody.
choose the
or
Liev
like-
Schreiber sort of Sabretooth. He's my He's my Sabretooth.
He's the highlight of that movie, man.
He is. The opening credits of that movie, when you see all the different...
That should have been the whole movie.
Exactly.
That movie would have been amazing.
Yeah. I was like, great. And then I'd tell people to turn off right after the credits.
Yeah, that opening credit sequence is amazing. I was psyched about that movie.
In the first 15 minutes.
For like the first, oh man, I was like, this movie rocks.
And then Wade Wilson showed up, and it was great.
Yeah,
and
all
then,
good.
wait, who's this guy who just punched a tank? Wait, he's going to be the Blob?
Uh-oh.
Oh, wait, hold on. What's going on here?
Well, I don't like where this is going. No, I think that Magneto though, he's so fascinating. He's an endlessly fascinating character.
Yeah, definitely.
Because
Cool
he's
costume.
not. His costume's
He's
awesome.
got a full cape, Sargogoni, not a half cape.
I
His
know,
helmet.
but I personally prefer a half cape, but cape I think is essential.
He's got
really
the awesome
cool.
helmet.
Oh, the awesome helmet.
His power set is really cool.
I mean,
And I like the idea he plays chess with Charles Xavier from time to time.
and
that friendship is
I was
so
gonna say,
interesting.
I think that relationship is really key to why I love him as a character so much.
I think Magneto's relationships, period, not just Charles Xavier, but his relationships with all like the different mutant characters,
With his children?
especially, make him a more engaging and interesting bad guy than the Joker. Because the Joker, like, he has some, like, there's the whole Harley Quinn thing, and I'll get into that later because she's on my list.
Oh yeah.
But Magneto is a human being. He has relationships with people. He's loved. He's lost. He's like struggled to raise children. Like, he's so relatable.
He's
and
more
yet,
human, even though he's
Yeah.
a mutant, but he's far more human.
Oh yeah,
A character, for sure. I think that's true. He's got a heart,
right.
that definitely makes him interesting. And it also leads me to something I want to talk about, which is the sympathetic or tragic villain. And I was going to talk about Harvey Dent
Harvey Dent's a big one.
with Two-Face.
yeah.
I mean, here's a guy who was a very heroic character. I mean, Harvey Dent was a guy who was going to save Gotham.
Yeah.
And once again, Dark Knight, I think, does an excellent job.
How'd that
of
work
showing
out for him?
Right, but he's a real tragic figure in that sense.
There's actually, Donovan, you were going to say something.
Well, I feel like, John, you and I have had this conversation before, but I feel like Batman and Spider-Man villains in particular are very sympathetic characters.
Because I was also going to talk about like Doc Ock.
So sympathetic.
In Spider-Man 2.
Well, and in different, like with anything, there are different interpretations.
Well, okay, if you don't go Doc Ock, then you go Kurt Connors.
I think Kirk
Kurt
Connors
Connors,
across
very
the
much.
board is more sympathetic
Yeah.
than Doc Ock. Doc Ock in Spider-Man 2 was sympathetic. I think
sure.
every other interpretation of Doc Ock has not been as sympathetic.
Maybe that one's just overpowering. A lot of
Yes,
other
no,
stuff
it
to me.
definitely is. And Alfred Molina, freaking
Yeah.
amazing. But most other, like, yeah, he got his powers through some sort of accident, but he's not nearly as tragic, I think.
Right. But I mean, for sure, Kurt Connors.
Oh yeah, he
As a
is a bit
guy.
more tragic and a bit more like understandable and relatable, and just like he's a victim of circumstance more
Yep.
than anything.
Yep. Yeah, I think both of those characters. And then with Harvey Dent, also that kind of mirror image kind of thing, even within himself, but also to Batman of the guy who tried to do something and something terrible happened to him and it drove him insane.
I do have a problem with Two-Face, and that's just how bonkers he goes after the whole Two-Face thing.
You
Well-
have to have two problems with Two-Face. I'm sorry. It's going to throw everything off.
Them's the
Fine,
rules.
and his abusive relationship with Gilda.
Okay, great. Thank you. But different interpretations
Once again,
show...
depends on who's writing it.
Because you've got the whole like mob blowing up his house kind of thing. And I mean, it's not just like, oh, I got acid on my face. Like sometimes that
No,
happens.
I realize that, but just like post that, once he like achieves vengeance or whatever he's going for after the initial transformation, what drives Two-Face to be such a like pathological criminal?
well, there's that schism somewhere in his brain that
He already
he's
had
now...
that. I mean, I like the interpretation of the art. There's already something wrong with him
Yeah,
before he got the acid. And one of my favorite things is in Dark Knight Returns when they fix his face.
Yeah.
And he's still insane.
right.
Because you can't. I mean, it's a psychological problem. It's not his face. Really, this makes
That bit where he's like looking at himself in the mirror and the whole thing's just the monster.
Yeah.
I really love that bit.
Yeah, that's an amazing bit, and I think
Yeah.
that character is such a tragic character. And another Batman villain to also talk about with sympathy to Mr. Freeze.
Oh my gosh.
Well, yeah, in retrospect, because initially, again,
Before the animated series, because the animated
Yes.
series gave him the backstory. That
the
he
animated
has.
series, we could do a whole episode on what that gave to Batman.
I think we will do an episode about the animated series. I think we will definitely talk about Batman the animated series for sure.
But yeah, post that, Mr. Freeze being possibly the most sympathetic.
Absolutely, the most
Batman
sympathetic,
villain.
unquestionably the most sympathetic Batman villain.
I'm not going to say most sympathetic villain, period.
No, but
because-
for sure, Batman.
Yes.
Because I think Kurt Connors is more sympathetic.
He's
in a lot of ways. Because something's affecting him in a way that Mr.
He's
Freeze
not necessarily attempting to go
chose.
out and do crime afterwards.
Right. That's
As
what I'm
opposed
saying.
to Mr. Freeze.
Right. Well, because when he's the lizard, he loses his
Right.
mind. So, and
It's
in
like
that
a
sense,
scaly Hulk.
in that sense, we could also talk about Man-Bat in Batman.
Wow.
yes.
Man-Bat.
We should talk about Man-Bat.
We should talk about Man-Bat.
Man-Bat.
Okay.
Man-Bat is a very tragic character, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah, he can't hear. He has a surgery. Surgery goes wrong.
Yeah, I
he
mean-
likes to terrorize people. Maybe eat them.
Well,
I don't remember if
Kurt-
he eats
Kurt-
people.
I don't think he eats people. He
I don't
kills
think
them,
he
though.
does. Yeah, he
I
does.
mean, that's another example, though, of like the lizard, of a good guy being turned into a monster by some kind of science. Which is a very interesting villain to me. I mean, that goes back to classic werewolf kind of stuff.
Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah, exactly. That thing about, like, there's a good guy, but something alters him that makes him a bad guy.
As opposed to Mr. Hyde from Marvel, who we will not be mentioning on this podcast.
I don't think
at
we'll be
this moment.
talking about him.
Really?
No.
Well,
Not at this moment.
I mean, unless we want to get into the whole him and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which I feel is much more compelling than anything we've ever seen in the actual comics itself.
Well, I
Oh,
mean,
unquestionably.
this is going to come up in my recommendations later, but we can talk about that. So
Sure. Okay.
that's fine.
Okay.
Great.
So let's talk about, obviously, the classic trope of the evil genius.
I do love me some evil
The
genius.
mad scientist, the
Let my creation live!
the mastermind, the super intelligent bad guy.
Two that come to mind for me, and they're on my list, both Vandal Savage
Oh, man, he almost made my list.
and Ra's al Ghul or
Yes,
Ra's al Ghul, depending
yes,
on who you
yeah.
talk about. Of like they're brilliant. Yeah, they've got some like physical capabilities, and technically both of them live for a very long time.
That's part of what I love about those characters specifically is that, like, they're not necessarily physically intimidating. They're not necessarily shooting lasers out of their face, but they live forever and they have forever to think about stuff.
Yeah,
Right.
And that's what makes them terrifying.
They are technically stalwarts. You know,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
if you were
They
listening
stand
last
the test
week,
of time.
they really do, and what's so interesting is they almost have an approach of, well, if this doesn't work, I'm not worried about it because next time I've got it.
Yeah.
You know, or I've got all these resources that are going to keep accruing until
Right.
I can use them.
Right.
So it's not like somebody's desperate attempt if I just escaped from prison and I need to like destroy this or get this. And both of them have more Ra's al Ghul, but decent intentions, or they think they have decent intentions of like, I'm helping the earth, I'm
Vandal
helping
Savage
this.
wants to, like, create a utopia.
Sure.
essentially.
Yeah. Both of them are along the same line of like we want good things, but
One of my
they
favorite
just,
episodes of the Superman animated series is the one where he gets flung like way into the future. Only guy left alive is Vandal Savage.
Savage, yeah.
And Vandal Savage was just like, yeah, I was wrong. It sucks being alone.
That is great. Yeah.
Well, and there's Justice League Doom, which is great.
Fantastic. That's one of the best Vandal Savages, I think, is in that.
Oh yeah.
That cartoon, that animated movie. He's very much the calculating evil genius in that.
So maybe not mad scientist on the original approach,
Well,
but
no,
like
no,
for,
I-
as far
I-
as brilliant minds.
I was
and
saying
people
mad
who-
scientist in a way of like that's the trope of the evil genius,
Sure.
of
Sure.
course. And somebody who initially very much was that and has become something different is somebody on my list, which is Lex Luthor.
Oh
Well,
yeah.
I would say he's still the mad scientist because he comes
He used
up,
to be a little bit more like
He-
lab coat
Right.
wearing psychopath Luthor. He was just
He's-
Luthor when he was introduced.
right, and he's not like inventing Metallo anymore. But I
Right.
think he's still
No,
like
he's become more
he's
of
more
like
the
a
corporate villain now.
yeah, for sure. But definitely the because he certainly can't fight Superman on a physical level. So we're talking about a psychological villain and a villain whose intelligence is what drives him.
Yeah.
And he's always 3 steps ahead. I feel like.
Or
Right.
tries to be anyway.
Or yeah.
Thinks he is, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. That to me, I mean, and once again, a perfect like exact opposite of a normal man who's not a particularly strong man necessarily, but is a very intelligent man versus the ultimate strong man, Superman, stuff like that. And the resentment of that character, we talked a little bit about when we in our Superman episode. What's so great about that character is that to him, he sees himself as a tragic figure.
Oh, yeah.
He sees himself as a guy who's not loved. You know, why doesn't my city love me as much as it loves this guy in the Cape?
Romance between a man and a city.
Right, exactly. And Superman for All Seasons, which is great. It's a fantastic idea. The idea of this just like, no, look at me.
I'm the genius. I'm helping you all. He's a boy in underwear flying around.
And like you were talking about with Ra's al Ghul, Vandal Savage, he thinks he's helping.
Yeah.
I mean, he wants a little money for himself,
Yeah.
sure. But
Lex Luthor's, I think, a little bit more in it for himself than, say, a Ra's
but I
al
think
Ghul or Vandal Savage.
I think he wants to do right by Metropolis. I don't think he wants to destroy Metropolis.
No,
I
because
think
then he
he'd-
would stop making money.
Right, but I think he would love to be seen as the guy who helped everybody and made a bunch of money off of it.
Oh, sure. And I mean, we've seen interpretations of like President Luthor.
Yes,
Like,
of course.
He
One of the best.
loves his power.
Superman, Batman, Public Enemies, the Jeff Loeb stuff.
Oh yeah.
Fantastic. I mean, that idea of that's where he's going to get to. Yeah, I think accruing power is a big deal. Power and respect. He demands respect. You have to respect him. And how can this guy respect him when he's so much more powerful? So he hates that guy.
Of course.
Yeah. So I think is there anybody else you guys want to talk
In
about?
terms of like the geniuses.
yeah,
the
man.
mad
Actually, I think
scientists.
we talked a little bit about him on that one, but Doc Ock,
Doc Ock is a good example.
Otto
like,
Octavius is very much that.
knowing how to push Spider-Man's buttons and being his intellectual equal.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And as much shit as it's been given, I'm actually coming around on the
Superior
Superior Spider-Man. Yeah. Where
I haven't read it, so I
haven't
can't
read it either.
speak to it.
it's I'm coming around on it. It's good, I think.
Do you know what it is, Donovan?
No, I have not heard of this.
A while back, I'm forgetting which writer it was.
It's it's a Dan Slott.
Yeah. Basically, Peter Parker died for all intents and purposes.
Okay.
Doc Ock killed him because they swapped bodies and Doc Ock was killed. So Otto Octavius is inside the mind of Peter Parker's body, but he retains all of Peter Parker's like memories and emotions, but it's with like Doc Ock's like intellect and thoughts. And so he like comes to understand Spider-Man in a way that he's never been able to before. And he's driven to become like a better version of Spider-Man. He
Wow.
becomes the superior Spider-Man. And I definitely shit on this concept a little bit when I was introduced to it.
yeah,
'Cause
for
it
sure.
sounds
It's a wild
really-
idea.
It sounds pretty dumb. On
I am
paper.
starting to hear people like it now.
But
it's over, isn't it? I mean,
yes.
Yeah.
I haven't read the end of it yet, so
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah,
quite
yeah.
sure how it resolves.
I don't, yeah.
Spoiler:
I've
Peter
never-
Parker's probably back.
I think that's a safe bet, probably. No, somebody else is in his mind.
Turns out it was Harry Osborn the
I
whole
was gonna
time.
say, yeah. Now it's Hobgoblin. What? No.
No, Sandman. Howard the Duck.
Yeah.
No, yeah, it's Howard the
It's
Duck.
gotta be
It's
Howard.
absolutely Howard the Duck.
My favorite villain.
And hero. And duck.
And Duck. But yeah.
Yeah,
So-
no, I think somebody else to talk about in terms of evil geniuses is the Riddler.
Oh yeah.
I mean, very much the.
He did invent the box. If people are a fan of Batman Forever, like I am,
I think it's just you and me, man.
I think. Come on, I love Val Kilmer. Tommy Lee Jones, that's his best role he's ever played. He is having
Whoa.
he is having so much fun.
I will.
He's having way too much fun at that part.
I will-
It's amazing. Like
I will
usually
give you.
he's
I will give you that. It is fun to see him enjoy.
he's
being
so
in a movie that way.
calculated and like.
But my God, that Two-Face. Oh my God, that Two-Face.
Oh, I know, but he's having so much fun.
Sure,
he is
fine.
having
I'm
a
sure
ton
he
of
was
fun.
having a hoot, but
Oh,
I
that's
was
great.
dying inside.
I know. For people listening, I do legitimately love that movie.
I actually really like.
I
Batman
have
Forever too.
pretty much nothing
Not
bad
so
to say
much.
about that
No,
movie.
I know you. No, I actually I
Like-
defend that movie all the time too, and give a shit about it in the comments because
Exasperated
I'm
sigh number 2.
yeah. Anyway, though, the Riddler is perhaps the ultimate, at least in Batman, the intellectual bad
Oh
guy.
yeah, definitely.
He's challenging Batman on it. I mean, to me, the
Besides
Riddler.
Ra's al Ghul, who we already mentioned. I'm sorry. I just
Yeah, but that
not-
I mean, there's
not
also
to-
kind of the physicality to that too, as well. I mean, there's sort of a. I mean, Ra's al Ghul was created to be the Moriarty to Batman.
yeah.
I still think the Joker is technically that in terms of the importance of the villain, but when they created Ra's al Ghul, he was created to be the Moriarty.
What's interesting about Riddler, though, is he's a pretty small-time kind of criminal a lot of times. Like,
Yeah,
he's not...
To
he's
me,
not-
his whole drive as a character, as I can see it, is to prove he's smarter than Batman and smarter than anybody.
Oh,
really.
he's an attention whore, is what he
Yeah,
is.
That's
Like,
it. That's why. That's why
he wants to prove that he is.
He doesn't
like,
care. He doesn't care about succeeding in his crimes
Right.
necessarily. He just wants to be recognized. That's why, because I've heard people say like, "Oh, he's stupid. He just leaves the clues and always leads back to him." Of course, that's what he wants,
Right.
and he wants to be. Look at what this guy did. He made this insane
Seeing him
maze-like
get so
thing.
much attention in Arkham City was a real treat for me.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
He's and Asylum. I mean, both of them.
He was in Asylum, but that felt more like a side. Like, you could do it if you wanted to. Like, he felt like he was really highlighted in Arkham City in a way that's like, oh man, the Riddler's.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
He's
Yeah.
making his self felt in
and
this
he's
game.
he's just waiting for Batman to come to him and say, "I can't figure it out." That's
Yeah.
all he wants.
Oh man, is that all he wants? I think Zero Year is
That-
one of the
oh my
best
God.
Riddler
Yeah.
stories ever.
We're never not going to talk about Scott Snyder's Batman.
No, we are not. It just
too
can't.
good.
It's too good.
Stop it, Snyder. You're too
But
good.
that Riddler is a perfect
Oh, yeah.
interpretation. I mean, it's everything that we're talking about here.
Mm-hmm.
He just wants people to know that he did it. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think he even says, "I'm Edward Nygma.
Right.
Call me the Riddler. I'm doing this to you." So
Bet you
good-
can't figure out why.
Exactly. Bye. Like, it's just
Bye.
Really awesome.
No, he's such a great character in that sense. He's like an angry nerd, basically.
Oh,
he's a
basically,
petty,
yeah.
angry little nerd who just wants to be no, I'm the smartest. There's some similarity to the Lex Luthor thing. It's not quite as bitter, but it's once again that idea of like, look at me, pay me attention. But he's kind of looking for it in a different way.
Well, and I love Frank Gorshin in the original Batman series.
Oh yeah.
His Riddler is
Oh yeah,
wonderful.
I think of any I think of any of the villains portrayed on that show, that's the closest to the version that I see of that
he's
character.
the smartest of
Maybe
those.
Catwoman actually, but
Which Catwoman?
Julie Newmar.
I don't know. I'm more of a Vincent Price kind of a.
Egghead.
Egghead, I
That's
think.
the definitive Egghead.
Oh man,
That's my
really
Egghead.
can't really get much
No,
better. Can't
when
get
I
much
read
eggier.
Egghead, he's who I go to.
I'll throw these eggs at you, Batman. You'll never
Yeah.
defeat my eggs.
No, that's perfect. But I think
I bet he's looking for an explanation.
I'm full of them.
he's great on that show, and like I said, it really shows the more brainy side of Riddler. And if we're gonna go on more like evil genius,
Sure.
bright people, Reverse Flash is
I was just going to talk about Reverse
Pretty-
Flash. Professor Zoom.
pretty smart. It's always confusing when there's Zoom and Professor Zoom. There's
Yeah.
that slight difference there. Anyways, Professor Zoom, Reverse Flash is awesome and terrifyingly like off
One
his
of the-
rocker.
one of the
He's like the Riddler and Joker combined in the sense of he's so brilliant, but the way he takes that information and assesses it and like
Oh yeah.
justifies what he does is absolutely
And I'm going to
bizarre.
go ahead and say I've read almost no Flash.
Oh
So
my gosh.
My only Reverse Flash is. Can we get a little spoiler here? I'm going to put a spoiler alert on this one because this seems like the most recent thing we were talking about.
Spoiler alert.
And that's the Flash TV show.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tom Cavanaugh.
But him like coming back in time,
Well, no, there's
killing his like Barry's mother, like
Yeah.
all these things is like you had all this science. You can travel back in time. You can figure all these things out, and this is what you do with it. Like you need to sit down for a second.
Right. I mean, one of the cool things about that character is he knows way more than the Flash because he's from the future.
Yeah.
So there's this whole thing about like I know everything about you and you know nothing about me, and yeah, there's a real terror in that of just like, and he's unpredictable in that sense. He's going to go back and kill Barry's mother because
Why? To make him the Flash.
Yeah, he's kind of helping him, or so.
But he makes him the Flash, but also to trouble him for all these years. I mean, I've read
Yeah.
interpretations where it's like, haha, for 16 years or whatever, you were mopey. I win.
right.
Like, I mean, that's maybe not exactly what he says. But again, he needs to just sit
No, I'm
down
pretty
for
sure
a
that's the
second.
exact dialogue. No, I mean, no, he's
I'm writing that. Right
You
now.
were slightly depressed for a long period of time.
Yes.
I am the victor.
He's a great character because he is so brilliant and so unhinged at the same time, and he has the same power set. I mean, you talk about he's literally the reverse,
But, like,
and the colors on his costume are the reverse.
vibrating, killing Iris in the way. That's pretty crazy.
It's nuts. It's nuts.
He's pretty. Yeah, that was pretty heavy-handed what he did there.
So, segueing from him, let's talk
Sure.
about some of the more. We talked about the Joker a little bit, but some of the more maybe unhinged characters, the crazies.
The crazies.
Yeah.
I like me the crazies.
Yeah,
They're my favorite characters.
Yeah, let me talk about somebody who He's got his reasons, but he's pretty nuts. That's Loki.
I love me some Loki.
Me too.
I love me some Loki.
Oh, who doesn't?
Man.
Why he's not on my list, I don't know, but
He was one of the first names I put on mine because I just he's
and
prior to the
obviously-
movies even. I mean, obviously
Sure.
Hiddleston, but prior to that, always one of my favorite villains in comics.
always. I mean, he brought the Avengers together.
He definitely did.
It's
You
true.
go back and read Avengers #1. That's him.
Yeah. I've especially loved me some young Loki on the recent run of Young Avengers. Seeing him as like a quasi good guy, but he's still definitely serving his
Oh,
own
yeah.
ends.
He always is.
I mean, he's Loki. You
Yeah.
can't stop
That's
Loki.
the cool thing
Yeah.
about Loki is how unpredictable he is. Sometimes he's with you, but
Right.
only because you're helping him.
And then for a while there in Dark Reign, we had Lady Loki, which was
Yes.
weird but awesome.
Yes, that was
Gave me some very strange feelings that I didn't quite know how to work out.
which I think he kind of dug that people didn't know how to feel.
Exactly.
That was Straczynski's run, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great run on Thor for sure.
And obviously, this isn't the complete Loki by any means, but him both in Thor 1 and Thor 2 is pretty much the main villain. Wouldn't you would call him the main villain?
Not
in
two.
2?
Oh, come on.
Malekith the Dark is
He's trying to destroy the universe. How do you get more main bad guy than that?
Because Loki is still. Oh my gosh, I don't know.
Loki is definitely still an antagonist.
Oh,
but I don't
unquestionably.
call him the main villain.
It
In
certainly
I
looks
don't
like he's
know.
going to be the main villain in the
I
next
feel like
Thor movie.
Malekith.
Which, what do you think about that being called a Ragnarok? I don't know. That seems a little like, really already?
Yeah, where do you go from there?
Floating over Wyoming, clearly.
Well, of course.
I don't know. I just feel like Loki is the villain of interest in both those movies. Malekith lasts for like 2 seconds, it feels like. I mean, he's just like, Thor put him down. That was fun. He pushed him through some dimensions.
Yet another villain that none of us will probably mention after
Malekith?
this is Malekith.
Oh, come on. He was the first
Is Malekith
three.
the accursed on your list?
He's the first 3 on my list.
Donovan?
No, he was not.
John?
No.
And he's not on mine, so let's move on.
But
Yep.
the Ninth Doctor as Malekith was pretty great.
Yeah.
And the whole movie, I was like, I know that nose. I know that nose.
You guys got anything else for? I mean, we can talk more about Loki or.
I mean, I don't know where he fits into the crazed. I mean,
See,
I
that's
think,
the
I
interesting
think
thing
he's
about
been
Loki.
driven crazy for sure.
No, that's the thing. Is like Loki is bored, is what he is. I don't know if he's necessarily crazy, because can an immortal be like completely insane? Like he has an immutable. That's the thing with all the Marvel gods that I've always found interesting is in a lot of their interpretations they have this like essence about them that can't
Right.
be changed, regardless of how many times they're killed or reborn.
Right.
It's like Loki is always going to be Loki, no matter if he's a woman, a kid, a
No.
teenager,
Yeah, exactly.
or like some goth-looking dude.
and,
Loki is always
Especially
Loki.
if he's a goth
and I
looking
think
dude.
he's comparable to Joker in the sense that they're both out for chaos and mischief.
Oh yeah,
But I
But Loki
don't.
does it
but-
because he can sit back and have a good laugh.
exactly. Well,
And Joker can too, but his laugh is much more terrifying.
Yeah, and
Loki will be munching on popcorn.
yes. Well,
Yes.
and Loki's got this idea of like he wants the attention that Thor. I mean, there's a lot more other stuff going on there.
Oh, sure.
With Joker, like that's his whole purpose is to just destroy and
Yes.
and cause chaos.
somebody who is quite a bit more unhinged that I wanted to touch on a little bit is a maybe not a super well known Batman villain, though I think he is Victor Zsasz.
Oh, Victor Zsasz.
Victor Zsasz is awesome.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys don't watch Gotham, right?
No. Have they introduced Zsasz? in
Yes.
Gotham? Oh, wow.
I very much love their interpretation of Zsasz.
There's
on
two.
the show.
Yeah,
Is he cutting himself?
Sure.
Of course.
he has to.
Yeah. He
Um,
has.
Has to.
But I think the guy who plays Zsasz on that show is doing a fantastic job.
I've read online that Gotham is worth getting back into
oh yeah,
because it kind of lost me after like episode 4.
I highly recommend it.
But like apparently once they get into the Arkham stuff, it's really really good.
Gordon's
So
working at Arkham.
yeah.
It's very cool, and Victor
didn't make it
Zsasz
there.
is a big part of
Okay.
some of the stuff
So
I love on the
I
show.
may give that another shot then.
But anyway, beyond that, I just think, I mean, in terms of like a more realistic Batman villain,
I mean, he is the sociopath who's going to like show up out of nowhere, cut your throat, walk away.
yep, he is bad news.
Oh yeah, but he's like the death that no one, like he's just a guy on the street,
Right.
and like okay,
He doesn't have his gimmick that he cuts himself, but he doesn't have a costume.
Right.
He doesn't have a get-up. He has no ideals. He's not the Joker who's like fighting for chaos.
right,
He's just killing because he likes it,
right.
which is
way more.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's way more disturbing per se, but
It's more because it's more realistic,
right.
Yeah.
So it's more terrifying to me in that sense.
It's like I can be walking down the street on any given day, and a Victor Zsasz can just walk up, stab me 3 times, and walk away, and I'll be dying on the street while he's just like getting his jollies off around the corner.
Yeah.
And that's going to happen regardless of whether I want it to or not.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's terrifying.
Oh yeah. Turn to another more realistic villain that's definitely an unhinged madman. And somebody I wanted to put somebody on my list who was not from one of the big two. And so I picked the governor from The Walking Dead.
Yeah. Yeah. He's unhinged in a very interesting way because his craziness has definitely been directed. Donovan, how much of The Walking Dead have you actually read? Because I noticed a distinct silence in you now.
No, I've read a few bits and pieces. I don't think I've read any of the Governor. I'm up to date with the show, which I
You
know
have seen
is
the
different.
show. The governor is in the show, mostly represented in a similar fashion, though he's
Yeah.
given a little bit more backstory. He's not as immediately crazy when you first meet him as he is in the comic. But I think we can still talk about even that interpretation of him because it's definitely an interpretation of this character.
Well, and I mean, quickly jumping back to Victor Zsasz, what
sure.
exactly is his origin? I mean, do we ever get
I don't know it.
this is why he does this? Is it
We definitely got an origin of a type in Arkham City through his like side quests.
Yeah.
There's like one day he just broke and started killing a dude,
Okay.
and
Yeah, he
then
just-
he kept on doing.
So
it.
That's
there
what I'm
isn't
saying. There's
there
nothing
isn't
specific.
where
He
the
just
governor we get a sense of
Oh, yeah.
he's doing something and why he's
the
doing it.
governor was a normal guy,
right,
and then the zombie apocalypse happened. He lost his family, and he went insane.
Yeah.
right.
And turned into a complete madman. And then when the survivors or the main characters of the comic show up, they really screw him up. Even worse.
Oh yeah.
They cut some of his limbs off and stuff in the comic.
Well, he didn't exactly not deserve it.
Oh no, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm saying that he was driven further insane
Sure,
into
yeah.
a complete madman who's riding a tank into a prison at the end of his story.
At that point, he went from a crazy person with some direction to a villain,
yes.
which I think was an important turn for that.
And
character.
I think definitely a character in an indie book who rivals a supervillain in other comics.
But I think it creates the distinction between like just a bad guy and a villain.
Right.
Is some kind of motivating factor.
Right.
Whether it even simply be their own psychosis.
No, I think he goes from being a bad guy to being a villain.
Right. Because you can
in
be a
his arc.
bad guy and still be mostly out of people's way.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah, you're not the nicest fellow and I don't want to meet you in a dark alley, but then the villain is the guy who will go out of his way to fuck your shit up.
Right, and in that comic specifically, he wants to kill Rick Grimes.
Well,
That's it. That's all he cares about. Everything else is aside. I have to kill this guy and anyone around him.
And-
but specifically, he's got a problem with Rick. In that
My
comic.
credentials aren't great, being mainly the show, but
That's fine. I mean, I think the show is an excellent interpretation.
And I haven't seen
Watching-
that far into the show either, so I
Really?
only know the governor from the comics.
see, I was watching that with my girlfriend Bridget, who I'm sure her opinions will be brought up every once in a while because they're so interesting. But
I do
there's
find them fascinating.
there's definitely Gorgoni agrees with me, but there's definitely a point where they try to make him a bit more sympathetic.
Oh, yeah.
And the whole time she's like, I don't want this at all. I don't want to like this guy. I hate what they're doing. Get back to him being a jerk. Like I want to see him.
And that's actually an interesting point that I'll bring up on one of the guys on my list is like villains that you don't want to even like.
Yeah.
Is like villains who are just like so gnarly.
Do you have anything else you want to say about the governor?
No, I just thought it was so funny
think-
because I was like, oh no, I get like what they're trying to do, and she's like, no, I don't even want to hear it. I don't even see
Let's
this.
talk about some of these villains that you're talking about. Guys who are so nasty.
I mean, the Joker definitely makes this list a little bit.
Oh,
It's just
yeah.
like, I don't want to feel bad for this guy. He is such a monster.
But you
Yeah.
do occasionally.
I think I've got
There's
somebody on my
times.
list like that too. But who are you thinking about specifically?
Do we want to start rattling guys off the list? Because I was kind of saving this one.
Okay, well,
For the list.
We don't. I mean,
But it's just like-
we've sort of just been pulling from the list. We're not
Sure,
specifically reading the list.
Nazis.
Nazis in general.
Just in general.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to feel bad for Nazis.
No.
They're Nazis.
Yeah.
Sure.
So you can have them punched, you can have them shot, you can have them thrown into helicopter blades. They're Nazis. Who cares?
Yep.
Well, and to be more specific with comics, then we've got people like Hydra. We're like,
And Red Skull.
Those are super Nazis.
sure, exactly, but
Well,
I'm-
this
you
brings
don't
up an
wanna
interesting
like
point.
them.
Hydra. I don't think they're Nazis. They use the Nazis.
Sure.
I think they use whoever they can to use their resources to further their own ends.
Sure, but
I don't
then
think
you
they
get
gave a
guys
crap
like-
about the Nazi principles,
Maybe not,
but
but
at least not on an institutional level.
well, again, it depends on who you're talking about within Hydra, because then you have guys like von Strucker or something.
Sure, he's a
Or-
Nazi.
Yeah.
But is Red
or
Skull a Nazi?
Baron Zemo.
I don't think Red Skull's a Nazi.
I've always read Red Skull as a Nazi. Like,
mean,
he was
he
not
was
presented as that in the movies
Sure.
necessarily. He was kind of more using the Nazi movement. But
Right.
in the comics, I've always read him way more as like a Nazi sympathizer of type.
I mean, I guess I've never seen anything specifically
Sure.
that makes me think like especially in like the Brubaker modern stuff.
Yeah,
he's
okay.
not trying to bring back the Nazi
No.
principles. He's just trying to do his own thing.
No, but that's the thing is, like, I don't think these guys are necessarily trying to resurrect the Third Reich, per se.
That's what I'm saying, though. I think von Strucker is,
Yes, that's true.
and maybe Baron Zemo, but guys like Red Skull or who's the robot guy?
In Hydra?
Yeah.
Oh,
Why can't I
Talking
think
about
of his name?
Zola?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Armin Zola.
Armin Zola.
I don't think
Zola.
Zola, thank you.
I don't think-
Zolo is from One Piece.
I don't.
Wow.
I don't think.
There was a crossover there, I thought.
I don't think Zola particularly cares about furthering the Nazi.
Well,
agenda.
he's more of like the mad scientist type, who's
Right.
like he's in the background creating weird shit for other villains to use.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't think as an institution, I think Hydra is its own thing that
Sure.
happened to glom onto the Nazi party
Right.
when it saw a chance.
Hydra is
And they're-
another example, though, of like villains that like we don't care how sympathetic Hydra agents like. We can see Wolverine butcher his way out of a Hydra base,
Slice him
and
up,
all
man.
of those minions had it coming because they
Slice
were
them up.
Hydra.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, and who doesn't love to see Wolverine slice and dice some bad guys?
That's
that-
half
that-
the reason I saw
that was-
Wolverine Origins, and while that certainly happened, a lot of other stuff happened that I was not cool with.
Yikes!
Well, then it happens, in The Wolverine, and that was much
was
better.
great,
That was
yeah.
much better.
He
Yeah,
was
'cause
killing ninjas.
yeah, and there
And while
was a
we
story
assume
that you cared
ninja,
about.
like and like ninjas are another one of those ones. Like if we just see general ninja-ing happening, we assume they probably had it coming.
Well,
Yeah.
and the thing is you can't ever let your guard down around a ninja. You
That's
can't
true.
let your
Yeah.
mind think
Nope.
maybe they're a good guy. You
No.
have to shoot first and ask questions later.
exactly. So
did they have a ninja family? Possibly.
Was that was on your list? Nazis?
Yes. Number one on my list was Nazis.
Wow.
Because you want to see them get punished by the heroes. That's what makes them great villains. No matter the circumstance, whether that be in like the Marvel, like Captain America punching Hitler,
Yep.
or in one of my favorite mangas, which is Hellsing. It's a Nazi army of vampires that lasted from World War II, and they're coming back to finish off London.
Have you read Uber by Kieran Gillen?
No.
It's about superpowered Nazis.
Excellent.
It's pretty awesome.
Or like, what was that movie? Iron Sky?
yes.
Like the Nazis were hiding on the moon the whole time.
I mean, the Indiana Jones franchise?
Sure.
Yeah,
I mean,
which again, we talked about this briefly one time, but 1 and 3 are much better because they're Nazis.
they're
Number
Nazis.
2,
True.
it's not.
Not Nazis. And then 4 gives us commies.
yeah.
Which I
Which
mean,
are
or
almost as good, but they're not nearly as good as Nazis.
they're just sidetracked.
They didn't
For some
they
reason-
didn't try to exterminate an entire
And the-
group of people. so
Here,
that
here
kinda-
is one thing that I find extremely interesting. We have all of these great fictional bad guys.
Yes.
The best, most hated bad guys, Nazis,
yeah,
are
real.
from real.
Yeah.
Are from real.
They're from
They're from real, guys. They are from real.
But it's like, it's kind of both terrifying and awesome that humanity created the villain that's going to work the best regardless of century, or like Nazis are going to be bad guys no matter the time span. Like we can be 100 years in the future, and if we see a hero punching a Nazi, we're going to be like, yep.
Inglourious Bastards was a huge hit. Mm-hmm. That's all about killing Nazis.
Yeah. Unless something takes a really dark turn in the next, like politically in the next couple of years, I don't think we're going to be looking on Nazis with any kind of favorable light anytime soon.
Yeah.
I'm trying to imagine if that was even a possible scenario.
Well, there's some things happening in like the political scape of Italy and stuff, and let's not talk about that.
Sure.
Neither the time nor the place.
No.
Somebody that I guess could also fit into when I was talking about unhinged villains, but somebody who you absolutely hate and is Bullseye.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Bullseye, almost again one of those ones that almost made my list because I do love him for the fact that I believe it was in the Dark Reign Deadpool stuff. He gets this line where it's just like, "You think I do this for the money?
Yeah.
I stopped needing paychecks years ago. I do this because I enjoy it and because I'm good at it.
Yeah.
It's like Bullseye, yeah, he's kind of presented as this mercenary type who's like, you pay him, he'll kill a guy. But
Right.
it's like, you got to figure, he's been doing this for so long now, it doesn't even matter. He's doing it because he gets off on it.
Oh yeah,
In a
Because
big way.
I would say the reverse of that is another name on my list who's borderline an anti-hero is Deadshot, who's sort of the DC Comics answer to Bullseye in a lot of ways, but is a fairly sympathetic guy.
He's way more sympathetic.
He is a
Floyd
mercenary.
Lawton
Yeah,
is
he's
way
doing.
more
He's got his reasons for what he's doing.
But he's also a professional.
Yeah, he does, but he doesn't enjoy killing necessarily. He's
As
just good at
opposed
it.
to Bullseye, who it's like, if there's a dude in his way, he's dead.
Right.
It doesn't matter.
There's no
certain
code
things.
of ethics with
Right.
him that you have with. I mean, there's a reason that Deadshot is frequently the main character of Suicide Squad because he's the most sympathetic of those villains by far.
He's the least psychotic.
Right,
He's still a sociopath.
He's the only one you can somewhat relate to.
Right.
Because you're not going to relate to anybody else on that. In that
Not
group.
really.
No.
What do you guys feel about Carnage, like in the sympathetic sort of realm of things?
Carnage, I think, is interesting. I left both Venom and Carnage off of my
Yeah.
list.
Yeah,
of
they didn't
favorite
make mine.
villains.
Did they make yours?
No, neither did, but I just was curious
me neither.
about.
But what's interesting about that is the idea of the symbiote like latching on to specific people and bringing out something in them. And with Eddie Brock and Venom, it was certainly a monster, but not to the point that Carnage was.
Yeah, absolutely.
With, what was the character's name? Cassius.
Oh, boy.
I don't remember.
Anyway, like when he gets the symbiote and becomes Carnage, he was already a killer.
Oh, yeah.
And that's
Oh,
what
yeah.
turned him into this aspect of Carnage.
Right.
As opposed to Venom, who like hates Spider-Man because I feel like is more like the rejected girlfriend of this scenario, and like the Venom symbiote was like, well, if he doesn't want me, I'll kill him and eat his face.
Right.
Um,
Right.
But
I
he's
mean,
much more sympathetic than Carnage.
Yeah.
Carnage is not
Carnage
sympathetic
you
at
don't
all.
want to like.
No.
You
No, I think-
kind of like Venom sometimes.
I think Carnage very much fits into what we're talking about, where it's like, symbiote or not, that guy's an asshole.
Yes.
And a real bad guy.
Oh yeah.
So, no, I think...
Well,
I think
except
that,
for Ultimate Carnage.
well, I mean, that's a different, totally different scenario.
That's true. Sorry, Gwen Stacy.
There's another person that I don't think you ever really want to like, but I think it's just because we'll see what you guys think of this. Parallax made my list.
Oh.
Huge Green Lantern fan, so obviously
yeah.
he's going to be on there.
And I think similar. He's somewhat similar to like a Galactus kind of thing.
He's pretty like
was-
mega bad.
Yeah, I always thought of Parallax as more of like a force of nature, less of like a directed force.
But him choosing Hal Jordan for like a host,
Yeah.
essentially, it was a pretty
Out of
specific
spite,
decision.
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that was a little bit more, I don't know, less cosmic, more begrudging.
Yeah.
And I don't know that whole thing, and then of course Hal Jordan becoming a villain in that was just like so
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
Great
yeah.
as hair, which I
No, I
don't know
mean
about
Parallax very much. I mean, the embodiment of fear. It's
gave Green Lanterns the yellow allergy for
Yes,
for
yeah.
years and years and years.
Yeah.
I mean, Owa's like biggest threat, and then of course Hal Jordan destroying the
Right,
core
right.
with. I mean,
yeah.
and there's more supervillains in there like Mongol or the
Mm-hmm.
Anti-Monitor that are kind of big bads as well. But I feel like Parallax is the interesting one out of all.
yeah,
of
I mean that brings me to somebody who's on my list, which is Sinestro.
yeah, he's on my list too.
Yeah.
Oh, he's so good.
Yeah, the fallen hero kind of character.
Yeah. I like what I saw online. It was like, why would the Green Lantern Corps ever give a ring to somebody named Sinestro? You know?
But what I like about
That's his last name, to be fair.
Larry Sinestro.
No, doesn't he have a first name? I believe.
I'm sure he does.
I don't know
I've
his first
I've
name.
only ever heard Sinestro.
I'm
do not-
almost certain.
It's the mustache. It's the 30s, movie
Well, and the
actor
like devil
mustache.
look. I mean, he's got red skin and pointy ears and the mustache. I mean, it's not none of it's helping him, man.
Yeah.
he is. Yeah,
He had
But he's so
self-image issues
cool.
long before
and
the
he
whole
forms
yellow ring.
his own
he's
core.
really cool.
He's
He's
really-
incredibly cool.
And he was in the New 52. He's going to Green Lantern for a while, and he doesn't want
yeah,
anything to do with it.
That's
so
a
awesome.
green ring has been forced upon him in the
he's
New
like-
52.
And he's like, no, I don't.
I don't like this.
Oh, it's so good.
No, it's great. And actually, another character who I love in a villain I love in Green Lantern is Larfleeze,
Yeah.
the Orange Lantern.
Yeah, the Avarice Lantern.
Yeah. Yeah,
He's really cool.
What a cool character.
Well, okay, I mean, this is a side story, and we probably could talk about this more. I love the whole Darkest Night, Brightest Day stuff, and
Yeah.
with the color spectrum.
I
and you've
could
got
easily see us doing an episode.
the
on that at
red
some point.
lanterns that are like so rage filled. That was so
The
cool.
blood coming out of their mouths.
Yeah,
and
the,
stuff, like,
the acid that they so
yeah,
awesome.
Yeah,
Like,
no, I mean, I think that whole
The
spectrum
blue
of
and
stuff.
hope and indigo being weird and
Which also brings
compassion.
us back to the whole fallen hero thing, like the whole Black Lantern, like seeing those
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
quote unquote dead superheroes coming back is just like,
Yeah.
oh shit,
Yeah.
this just got real.
Oh yeah.
Well, and
Unquestionably.
Deadman is the Deadman, right?
the superhero.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he keeps
Boston Brand.
he keeps jumping through. I mean, he's trying to
Yeah.
help people out and figure out.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's awesome.
Yeah,
But in terms of like the fallen heroes,
Yeah.
I don't think it gets much better than Bucky.
no,
Like
no
him,
question about.
him as the Winter
He
Soldier.
He didn't make my list because I don't think him as a villain anymore. But you're right, absolutely.
Right.
What about? I mean, we can talk about Bucky, but what about Dark Phoenix stuff? I
Oh.
mean,
Ooh, well,
That's a
yeah.
good one.
that's
yeah.
a fallen hero that
Yeah.
you
And then-
love, Jean Grey.
Interestingly enough,
That's a heartbreaker.
how long has she been dead for? She's got to be edging in on like the because
No,
Barry
she's
Allen
alive
was,
again, though.
is she now?
Sure.
Well,
Well, I
in
mean, you're talking about the
no,
time travel stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I guess she's been introduced back into the book. She's
Sure.
not. She hasn't come back from the dead.
right. No, but since Claremont killed her, she's stayed pretty much dead.
Yeah.
we can talk about the Madeline Pryor stuff if we want to, but
Let's
yeah,
not.
Sure.
I'm sorry, we can go back to Bucky, but
Let's also
I just
not
want
mention
to.
the Clone Saga while we're at it.
Oh man, I had a whole 10 minutes on that. We can go back to Bucky and then jump back. I just wanted
Sure.
to, before I forget.
Oh,
like,
yeah, yeah,
that,
yeah.
I would
Yeah,
say,
yeah.
if-
No, I
as
think-
far as fallen heroes go, that's a pretty
I think
substantial.
that's a great one. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, in terms of also like, not only was she a fallen hero, she also became a cosmic level threat.
Yes.
Yeah.
As
No,
opposed
she-
to like Bucky was a badass assassin and like may or may not have killed JFK. But the Dark Phoenix
Magneto
was,
may or may not have killed JFK, depending on which universe.
but Dark Phoenix was about to swallow the universe.
Right. Right.
it's a decent threat.
It's
Oh, yeah.
it's okay.
Well, and the fact that her own team had to put her down,
Pretty much,
essentially,
yeah.
which is
I mean, there's so many reasons why that's such a great storyline, but that's one of them. Is that and what makes an interesting villain out of that? And same thing with Bucky, although they go different ways with it. Is this idea of confronting somebody who you love in some way, as a friend, as a girlfriend, or whatever, and then having to kill them or confront them or fight them in some way.
Even Two-Face has this
I
a
was
little
going
bit.
to say there's a friendship there that's really
Yeah, exactly. This idea of like this person who, in your mind, you perceive as a friend, you're now looking through your eyes as an enemy. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's about as dramatic and heartbreaking as it gets in a story.
Well, because not only do you feel the sympathy for the character, but you've got the main character, the hero, feeling the sympathy too, and it's
Yeah.
double feels.
oh my
at
god!
that
I mean,
point.
the
Can we just never say double feels again? That'd be great.
I don't remember saying it.
Okay, good. Probably for the best.
what was that again?
Nothing. Let's move on.
Yeah. I think that's so interesting in Dark Phoenix being forced to kill Jean Grey versus Captain America refusing to kill Bucky.
Right. And eventually, like, getting him back to
Right.
the side of good.
They're in many ways they're so the reverse of each other in terms of those stories.
I've never thought of, like, comparing and contrasting those two stories, but
Yeah.
they're the first two Marvel properties that, like, pop into mind in terms of, like, good guys who we've loved turning really bad.
Well, let's also talk about maybe not even turning bad, but something like Civil War.
Well, I mean, I talked about this a little bit in the Superman episode, and that's like some of my favorite interpretations of Superman are when he's bad.
Yeah.
and like I love me a like bad good guy.
Right.
Hulk is one of the probably
Sure.
the best examples of this.
Hulk can really go either way.
How many times has he gone real bad?
Right.
First Avengers. I mean,
Yeah,
that's what got
exactly.
them together is Hulk going crazy.
Yeah.
But Civil War is another great example of that, where we get both sides of the argument.
Yeah.
But who's the bad guy in that? I mean, I would argue Tony Stark because I'm all Team Cap.
Me
But
too. But I think really that comic is Team Cap. I don't think it. I mean, really. I mean, I think Spider-Man's involvement in it, if
Sure.
anything, cements that.
yeah,
That he's initially with Tony Stark, and then he grows disillusioned with it. and I think that is kind of the way you're supposed to feel about it. And but I think what's so great about that is it's not so clear cut.
See, I always came down on the side of wherever Hercules was at. That's who I'm going to be rooting for.
And I think that's just you.
No, that's a natural choice.
That's everybody.
Incredible Herc. That's where it's at.
How's Hercules weigh in on this? Oh, he's for it? Okay, we're good. We're good.
All right.
Yeah, I think that's so interesting where, like, as a reader, I love Tony Stark, but he's so wrong to me in that. And I think X-Men does a great job with that kind of stuff. Like we're talking with Magneto, where it's like, oh, I want to like Magneto. I want to like Magneto a lot. Hero or villain, he's one of my favorite characters in comics. But he's so wrong. He can't. It's just like, why can't you see this?
Can't you see? Killing everybody, not the answer. Who
Right.
knew?
Exactly. I mean, so I think that's, yeah, I think that can be the most interesting thing when you get into this gray area of heroes turning into villains or heroes being wrong, not necessarily evil, but wrong,
Sure.
in a way, which is always
Because
interesting.
there's tons of examples of stories of heroes being misled into doing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
But when it's them coming to their own decision, like, this is what I believe,
Right.
like we did in Civil War,
Yeah.
is what makes that so compelling and so interesting.
And a character who I think always walks this line and can be hero anti is Nick Fury.
Oh, yeah.
He is an ambiguous character.
Well, because he's doing what he thinks is best for the world.
Right.
Doesn't give a damn about what anyone thinks.
And that makes him an antagonist frequently.
All the time. Man, Secret War, holy crap.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm not talking about Secret Wars.
No, we're not talking about Secret Wars. We're talking about Bendis's
Secret
War.
War, in which Nick Fury brainwashes a bunch of heroes into invading Latveria.
Yeah, but he's totally justified.
Oh, completely.
That eventually leads to Secret Warriors as well, which is a great comic.
Introduction of Quake.
No, I think she's in Secret War first.
Is she, oh, no, she definitely
She's
is.
in,
Yeah.
That's her first appearance. Then Secret Warriors. Yeah, I think the characters like that are interesting. I mean, very much these sort of somebody who immediately comes to mind, an anti-hero. One of my favorite characters is the Punisher.
Yeah.
I mean, he was introduced as a villain.
Yeah.
I mean, that to me is one of the great comic book stories, which is like stories behind the scenes of comic books. He's introduced as a villain, and then the guy writing him was like, oh, wait a minute, I'm kind of with this guy. He's not really a villain. He's sort of an anti-hero.
Was he given his backstory when he was introduced as a villain?
Somewhere in the Spider-Man run, yeah.
Interesting.
And then at that point, it became like, wait a minute, this guy is incredibly sympathetic.
Right.
That he did become this thing. You know what's interesting? He's more evil, but kind of what they're doing with Mr. Hyde on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. There are points in that show where I'm like,
definitely.
wait a minute, no, I'm
And that's
totally
why
with
I
this
feel
guy.
like he's a much more compelling character in the show than he ever has been in the comics.
This is an interesting thing to talk about as well, which is villains in different mediums and stuff like that. Like I never gave a crap about Mr. Hyde in the comics. I mean, he's mildly interesting in some places, depending on who's writing him.
He can show up, deal a little mutant growth hormone, then he's on his way. Maybe punches a hero in the face once or twice.
Yeah, exactly. But in that show, he's one of the most compelling characters on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, and the fact that we have, like, I love this just boiling of emotion that's just beneath him, and we see it come out once or twice, but we know that's not, like, the true depths of the crazy that's in there.
Yeah, I was just reading an interview with the showrunners. They were talking about that's the writer's room. That's their favorite character to write, was Mr. Hyde.
He's so good.
Yeah, and Kyle MacLachlan playing him is fantastic. I mean, you just, as you said, you can see so
look
much
at this
going
as a
on beneath the
continuation
surface.
of Twin Peaks.
Which I do.
Agent Cooper went nuts. He went nuts.
Well, he went and got a wife somewhere in, like, the Asian
The
subcontinent.
Hunan
and-
province.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's been like 20 years,
Yeah,
so I
yeah.
think there's
Who
plenty of
who
time
may
to-
or may not have been a doll at that time.
Yes,
Which is
exactly.
really-
If we want to connect all of the shows, and it's all inside of a kid's head,
Yep.
and he's looking into a snow globe.
Yep.
That's right.
But no, I think he's a hugely compelling character. I mean, to me, the most interesting characters are characters like that who are somewhere between hero and villain. The characters like Nick Fury, the characters like the Punisher.
Who are following their own agendas, and that might clash with the quote-unquote heroes.
I don't know if you read Punisher Enter the War Zone that Rucka just did. I mean, that's the Punisher fighting the Avengers because they want him to stop being a psychopath. The Punisher in Civil War is amazing as well.
Man, when he shows up is just like, yeah, I killed all those villains for you. You're welcome.
Exactly. It's just like, okay, if you guys are going to fight amongst yourselves, let me take care of some of this, trash that's out there. I mean, that was a Fractions run on that. I mean, yeah, they're so compelling to me. I mean, and Magneto is that same thing as well, where it's just like, I don't know, he's a villain, but he's also kind of heroic, but I don't agree with everything he does.
But as opposed to, like, say, the Punisher or Mr. Hyde on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Magneto is going about fucking up the world.
Right.
His agenda is, let's elevate mutants and get rid of humans.
Right, exactly. But it's that similar thing of the backstory where, like, oh, I get it, but the only difference is I kind of agree with the Punisher. I am like, no, just go ahead and slit everybody's throat because they're the worst.
Small window into John's psyche.
Yep.
How does that make you guys feel about the rebirth of Jason Todd as now the Red Hood? Because he's kind of that same idea of like...
Oh, very much so.
He's taking down crime bosses. Now, of course, he's doing it by killing them and owning the crime, of Gotham, owning the drug trade and things like that. But is he wrong?
I think he's a very compelling character currently. And I like his sort of like pseudo inclusion into the Bat family now. Like Bruce Wayne is kind of taking him back into the fold.
Well, he's got to feel bad about the whole like, oh, I kind of got you killed thing.
Oh, it's a huge guilt trip. There's a lot of guilt when it comes to Bruce Wayne these days.
Very Catholic in that way.
Oh yeah. Well, if you want, that's a discussion for another day. You want to talk about Daredevil?
Yeah.
How many bodies are on that guy? And very Catholic. But no, I think Jason Todd's a really interesting character, going from hero to villain to hero. Like, yeah, he's a really interesting character, and then once again, a character like the Punisher, where you agree with what he's doing, but not his tactics necessarily.
Yeah.
I think that's Is there anybody else you guys have on your list? I've got one more.
I do too.
I haven't said half my list.
Well,
Okay,
why don't we go through you?
let's go through who's left on the list.
Okay.
You go through a couple.
Okay. My first big one, I guess, I'll go with Harley Quinn.
Oh,
Is
yeah.
definitely
She's
made my
great.
list. I love her because she represents the quasi-normality of the DC universe that has been touched by the absolute insanity that is represented by the like hero-villain struggle.
Right.
In its most extreme case, which is the Joker. And there's definitely a Lovecraftian aspect to her fall that I really love, in that she's touched by this. She observes and tries to comprehend this unknowable chaos of just the Joker. And that makes her go insane, but at the same time start to worship him. The fact that this all takes place in Arkham Asylum adds to the Lovecraftian aspect of it.
Yeah.
But no, I mean that idea of she's not a fallen hero; she's just a normal person who gets pulled into this. So fascinating, and that happens. Like these women who fall in love with these serial killers when they're in prison. They're like, what the hell?
It reminds me of that like episode of Firefly where it's like you look at the horribleness of what a Reaver does, and you've got two options, and that's either just like stop being who you are or turn into that thing.
Right.
And Harley Quinn chose to turn into, like, in an effort to comprehend what she had witnessed, she chose to become it, or at least like strive towards becoming it. Because that's another thing that I find interesting about the character is like, as much as she attempts to emulate the Joker and like latch onto him, she can never quite be as jokery as the Joker.
Well, like we were talking about once again in the Snyder run, that's too far for her.
Right, exactly.
There's a great scene between her and Batman where she's like, no, he's so far gone. He's way crazier and more dangerous than he's ever been, and even I can't get behind him.
Right.
Would you think that this is strange, and I think I just now thought about this. Would you maybe pick Tim Drake as the Batman version of Harley Quinn, seeking out Batman, being the big fan, being the detective, looking up to him as a hero, and then wanting to be taken under his wing? I just now put this together.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I love that, yeah.
I never thought about that before ever, but I think that's definitely true. He's the fan. It's the
And then, of course, he eventually wants to do his own thing, and that,
becomes Red Robin.
He figures out what Batman's really about. But at least to start off, I mean, that's
where everybody's at right now. All the sidekicks are kind of not with Batman anymore.
It's because Batman does nothing but drive people away.
It's true.
What he is in life.
Yeah, except Alfred.
It's because Alfred has Stockholm syndrome.
And Alfred's been there from the beginning. Alfred has
Alfred knows no other way.
He has the big perspective,
Right.
of that. But yeah, this the idea that Harley and
I never thought about that. No, that makes a lot of sense. No, Harley Quinn's a great character, obviously, and thank you, animated series once again.
Yes.
Again, there's a whole nother podcast of
We
like,
will-
what we can thank the animated series for.
We will definitely be doing an animated series podcast at some point. Donovan, you said you had some people left on your list.
I just have one.
Okay,
and
actually, how many?
I was going to say, I think
Let's see. I already mentioned Nazis. I think I've got most of my list still.
All right, let's go through the majority of your list, and we'll take it down to one, and then we'll each do the last one
Okay.
on our list.
The next big one I have is Red Hulk.
Okay, yeah.
This is going to be some spoiler territory because the first big arc of Red Hulk, which was done by Jeff Loeb, which I know I've expressed my problems with it in the past, though I do love it for the introduction of Red Hulk.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the great recent additions to the Hulk
Right.
universe.
Do you know Red Hulk's secret identity, though?
Oh, yeah.
I don't.
Okay. Because I think this...
you can spoil it.
Sure.
That's fine.
Spoiler alert.
Right. It kind of, like, saying this kind of ruins the first big arc of, like, the introduction of Red Hulk.
Whatever. If you've read any modern Marvel comics, he's around all the time anyway
Right.
now, and it's clearly him.
Thunderbolt Ross
Yeah.
Wow.
is the Red
Cool.
Hulk. So he is, like, the main antagonist of the Hulk and is eventually, because of his, like, unquenchable passion for trying to beat the Hulk, despite everyone else being like, no, the Hulk's pretty much a good guy at this point, it drives him to become what he hates. And there's something so, like, I don't want to say Shakespearean, but certainly, like, he becomes the monster.
Ironic?
Yeah, there's definitely irony there, yeah. But, like, tragic in that, like, he could never... The human must always defeat the monster.
Oh, well,
But he gave up his humanity to become the monster that he was hunting.
It's one of my. It's one of the reasons I love the Punisher. Actually, I love the idea of becoming a monster to stop a monster.
Right.
Like at what point? Yeah, you're losing your humanity. The Walking Dead is entirely about that.
Yeah,
That's what the
exactly.
whole comic's about.
Blade Runner? Anybody? I knew.
Well, he
kind
was
of.
a replicant the whole time.
Well, this is not that podcast. I don't believe that. But in that sense, he had to become a robot. He lost his emotions and his heart hunting robots.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But
Sorry.
yeah,
Not to
Red
be-
Hulk is a great example of another one of these characters.
Right.
No,
that's one of my favorite Hulk runs. I mean, we've talked about your controversial opinions about
Yes.
it, but that is absolutely
controversial. Okay. Anyway,
your love-hate relationship with it.
yes. Okay, that's better.
You've started. It's at least controversial to me.
Sure, fair
that's one of
enough.
my favorite Hulk stories.
Fair enough.
Though.
But yeah, the whole evolution of the Red Hulk and finding out who he is, I think, was so impactful as a longtime Hulk fan. Just being like, oh shit,
Yeah.
like this is the guy who's hunted the Hulk forever,
Right.
And it being not only a surprising turn, but also one that made the absolute most sense.
Oh god.
Of
Yeah.
just like
yeah.
the Red Hulk has been in like a big pain in the ass for how many issues now?
Yeah.
And like, of course it's Thunderbolt Ross the whole
It's
time.
a-
Who else would be this big of a pain in the ass?
It's a genius. It's one of those where I'm like, whoa, I didn't see that coming, but like you
Beautifully
said,
put.
perfect.
Right.
He is a great character, and now he's kind of okay now.
He's in the Thunderbolts. He's
Yeah.
he's doing good.
Yeah.
Thunderbolt Ross is part of the Thunderbolts. Who knew?
Yeah. Yeah. Wasn't he in? He was in He was in part of Bendis's Avengers run too.
Maybe a little bit. Yeah, I do not. I don't think I read that.
It
bit.
was the post Siege.
See, I stopped reading for a little bit after Siege because Siege
Yeah.
got a little wacky for me.
Yeah, post Siege when they kind of rebooted
Like
everything.
the heroic age.
Yeah, the heroic
Yeah.
age. That's where Red Hulk was part of the Avengers.
I guess if we're still going down my list.
Oh yeah, what you got?
Ultron. I love me some Ultron.
Cool.
I was going to talk about technological bad guys, but I didn't really have any. So
Yeah, I mean,
What?
like, how did you not have Brainiac? Like, I'm shocked we have not talked about Brainiac.
Metallo.
Metallo was great too. Yeah.
But for me, it's Ultron.
Oh yeah.
I love his introduction, the whole like creation of like Hank Pym, the whole Frankenstein thing going on there.
Yes.
Oh my god!
Yeah, I mean, I love Frankenstein and like Frankenstein like stories and stuff, and that is certainly an amazing one.
And I cannot wait to see how it's handled in
With James Spader playing.
We
him
don't
in
have to wait
Age of
long.
Ultron.
a couple of months.
May
So excited.
May 1st.
But yeah, but then also the stuff like the Ultron stuff in the Annihilation saga for the Cosmic Marvel stuff was super cool. It's just like, oh, what happens when you give an ultra intelligent AI control of a malleable technological race?
Bad stuff.
A whole lot of bad stuff. No.
Yeah, Age of Ultron's really good.
Yeah, the Age of Ultron
the
stuff
comic,
is really
not
good.
the movie that's coming out. The specifically the comic Age of Ultron is really interesting.
Every time Ultron shows up in the comics, I'm always just like, oh, it's going to be good.
Runaways.
Runaways, his quote-unquote son.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a spoiler for Donovan because
That's
he doesn't
fine.
run it. But
That's okay.
yeah, Ultron plays a part in the Runaways, and it's
Cool.
freaking great.
It is really awesome. Yeah, for sure.
Very excited.
So you just have one left. On
I
your
just
list?
have one left, so
But
I'll
Donovan,
pitch
you
it back
wanna-
over to you guys.
Who's the
Yeah,
last
this
one on your
was
list?
a strange one, and this was actually one I added after I was going through these lists. Sparked an interest, but Mystique.
Oh yeah.
I think Mystique is an awesome character.
She exists in that kind of anti-hero.
She can
villain.
be.
She can
Especially
be.
initially, she was way more of just like, oh, and it's Magneto's sidekick.
Right.
Yeah, and then you figure out who she is and how long she's been around and who she's been burned by and who she's given birth to.
Of course.
Not to give anything away, but I mean, she's really
Like we haven't given away a bunch of stuff anyway, and who doesn't know that?
I feel like we need to put a spoiler warning in front of every single one of these podcasts.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because everything we talk about is such a massive spoiler.
Yeah. It is
How do we
indeed.
not, though?
I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah, let's talk about comics, but no plots and no spoilers.
Right. And the other thing too is we're dealing with such continuity that it's hard. I don't even think of it as spoilers. You know what I mean? Like it's
Right.
just sort of like, well, yeah, that's what happened.
Yeah, if you're up to date,
It's almost history, which is scary. That's scary to me. It's basically history. Well, everybody knows that.
Yeah, but I mean, she's
That
just,
happened like 5 years ago. Remember?
She's
Sorry for ruining Civil War for everyone.
yeah.
Guys, didn't you watch the news? Civil War happened.
Yeah, I mean, Cap versus Iron Man, it was all over.
Oh my god.
Were you on board with the Registration Act? Because I had mixed feelings.
I know. I just don't.
That's how we feel about
No,
comics.
give it 3.
history.
Or when is Cap 3 coming out? 3 years? 2 years?
2?
This is going to become a thing on the internet. Is people being like, well, like talking about Civil War in all seriousness.
Yeah, that's great.
And it's going to be an election year, so I guarantee you we're going to see like vote Cap, vote Iron Man posters all over the place
yeah.
as marketing.
Great marketing.
I'm not going to give away who I'm already, what camp I'm already in. But,
Captain America.
Yeah, me too.
but Mystique, I feel like, is super sympathetic.
Yes.
She's super interesting. Her mutation is awesome. Like
Very cool power.
she's been fake dead a bunch of times, which is pretty cool.
Who hasn't?
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. It's just super
Jean
cool.
Grey.
She's not been
Just the
fake
once.
dead. Anyways, I think Mystique.
Oh, I love Mystique. She's a great
She's-
character.
yeah, she's
and then
pretty
obviously
awesome.
her in this new continuity of films. There's not new continuity, but this new section of the film.
Loves me some Jennifer Lawrence Mystique.
She's great.
She's much better the second time around. I'll say that. I feel like Days of Future Past was a great Mystique movie. I feel like
Sure.
First Class, she was okay. She was good. She was in it. But this time
We're
around,
looking at her origins in that movie.
But
though,
you
in so
even
many ways.
okay. I mean, and we don't have to talk about this too much. But even look at like X-Men 3 and the whole being abandoned by Magneto because she no longer has mutant powers. Because
Yeah, I
of
wish
those-
that had been explored more. in
I
that
just
movie.
I don't know. I just
I
feel
wish
like,
a lot of things about that movie, John.
again, that's why I said we don't have to go into this. But I feel like that's a
Movie
really
that movie attempts to do too much.
that's exactly what the issue. But I feel like that's a really interesting
Oh yeah.
bit of storyline.
Oh yeah. And yeah, her relationship with Magneto is endlessly fascinating.
Yeah. Well, and with Xavier. I mean,
Yeah.
she's just really she's the go-between that's really fascinating. And of course, I said last time or a couple of times ago, I can't remember, but I was reading Dark X-Men, and she's huge part in that. Essentially, the leader under Norman Osborn, and it's really legit.
That's my biggest problem with Dark Reign. It's like, who was like, okay, let's put him in charge just because he shot the Skrull Queen.
He shot the Skrull Queen.
So clearly, the Green Goblin should be in charge of world
I
security.
see. There's no way that could go wrong.
It's the
Not at all.
lawnmower hair he has that goes, you know, like
A
that's
man with that kind of hair, he should be in charge.
yeah,
Out you go, Nick Fury.
exactly.
Nick Fury was out long before
That's
that
true.
occurred.
Was it
but-
Maria Hill at that point?
Yes.
Yeah, out you go, Maria Hill. I don't care if you want How I Met Your Mother. I want to do the last one on yours because I have one that I don't know how this character hasn't been mentioned. I want to see if it's the last one on yours.
Okay, I really doubt it is because mine is Dracula.
Oh, then no. Let me say though, I'm go through Dracula, but when we come to mine, you're gonna be like, how?
Okay.
How has this character
Okay.
not been mentioned? Go for
I'm
it.
kind of shocked neither of you had Dracula.
I actually
Really?
really like Dracula as a supervillain in the Marvel context.
In any context, he's a villain because
He is a great villain.
because he is like open source. Dracula can be used by any property.
But he's been in the Marvel universe.
He's been in the
quite a
Marvel
bit.
universe quite a bit, and I really love it when Dracula shows up in the
too.
Marvel universe. But the specific Dracula that I love the most is been done in a webcomic called Dr. McNinja, and I've talked about this before.
We've
Yes.
talked about Dr. McNinja before, yeah.
Dracula and Dr. McNinja resides on the moon, and he has space lasers,
Well,
and he
can't go
collects
wrong with that.
celebrities through time. He's-
Celebrities?
He
I wanna-
he collects personas as part of his like menagerie. So he has like the Adolf Hitler is around,
Okay.
and let's say Tupac and Paul McCartney are up in his moon base making
That's-
music together.
That sounds like the beginning of a joke.
So in
So
Dracula's
Tupac and Paul
menagerie,
McCartney.
we have Paul McCartney and
Yeah.
Tupac
And Hitler.
and Hitler.
And Hitler's
All
there,
walk
too.
into Dracula's moon base.
Yes,
Because
exactly.
why not?
But it's specifically the Bela Lugosi Dracula
yeah,
that he
yeah,
uses,
yeah.
which makes it all the more better. And I don't know if that was a correct sentence, but
All the more better.
I don't know.
but the fact that like
I'm not the
Dracula
grammar guy.
Dracula can pervade every comic book universe, because I also
yeah.
love Dracula in Joss Whedon's Buffy season 8
Oh, yeah, when he
Like,
was on
when-
the show, too.
when he was also on the show, but like specifically in season 8 when he shows up as like kind of a codgery old man
Yeah.
persona who's slightly racist because he's so out of touch. It's just like seeing Dracula as this like anachronistic kind of like outsider to the world
Yeah.
is always a little humorous. And the fact that like you can use the word Dracula and everyone will know who you're talking about. He's such an iconic bad guy that like him used in comics, I feel like yeah, there have been some dumb versions of him.
Yep.
But every time we see him in, say, Marvel or
He's a cool character. There's no question about it.
the King of the Vampires, what are you going to do?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Also, referring to other vampires as Draculas is endlessly entertaining for me.
Yeah, that kind of drives me insane when people do that.
Really?
See
see
him all
those
them
Dracula-
Draculas.
Yeah,
It doesn't
there's
bother me
multiple.
nearly as much as Frankenstein's, but that just makes me want to kill people.
All right, John.
All right, the last
drop
one I-
the bomb.
All right, who you got?
I
Is it going to
can't-
be Dracula?
No, it's not going to be Dracula. It's somebody I can't believe we haven't talked about. Victor Von Doom.
See,
You know,
I considered it, yeah.
Yeah, he didn't.
To me, maybe the ultimate villain in the Marvel Universe, because it seems like no matter what,
It's always
it
Doom.
always comes back to Doom.
Yep.
Doc Doom is involved in there somehow.
It's true.
He's the fifth of the Fantastic Four.
Kind of.
Yeah, I mean, he makes it, okay. Fantastic Four story without Victor Von Doom.
He's sort of the Lex
Is a
Luthor in that
Victor
scenario.
is a Fantastic Four story with the Mole Man.
Yeah, and that's about what it's worth. But with Victor Von Doom, and yeah, he's in every. Yes, he's
That's why
awesome.
I am super worried about this new Fantastic Four movie.
Let's not talk about it too much.
Blogger Von Doom.
I love Victor Von Doom.
No, he's a great bad guy.
He is. We didn't talk about him. I can't believe we didn't talk about him in the
No.
mastermind section.
It's true.
He is the mastermind.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is the guy who's just sitting there calculating away.
Mm-hmm.
I love in Young Avengers, the Children's Crusade.
Oh man, that comic
Great, but
hits
great,
me every time. But
great comic, great use
Great
of
stuff of
Doom.
Doom, yeah.
Yeah, great Doom stuff in there. He's
what I
just-
love about Doom is he is a sovereign. Like he presides over a land. He's got diplomatic immunity because he technically represents a nation.
Yes, Latveria. That's oh man, and I love his look, the metal mask and the green hood and the cape.
Also, can't say no to a villain who refers to himself in third person.
Nope. I also love the idea. What do you guys think about the idea? Because there have been different concepts of what he looks like under the mask. There's like the monstrous, hideous look. I like the look, and I can't remember the idea that he has like one scar on his face. That to me says everything about that character. That he would see himself as horribly
That's
disfigured.
horrific, yeah.
But no, he's a fine-looking guy, except for he's got some one scar that's barely even noticeable. But that's everything to him. That he has to wear this armor. Then
Did you know that his look in the comics inspired the look of Darth Vader?
that makes
I
sense.
just read that.
That makes complete
the other
sense to
day.
me. And there's a very
That's so
Vader,
awesome.
There's kind of a Vader-y quality to him. I mean, eliminate the Anakin Skywalker stuff. I'm just talking about
Yeah.
Vader in that first movie.
Sure.
He definitely
the imposing figure in armor
Yep.
who strides in and immediately commands your attention.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean that. So in that
Awesome.
sense, I sort of feel like Doom is, in the sense of we're talking about like the super villains.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
the guy. He is the super villain.
Saying the supervillain is such a
Well, at least to me, at least in the Marvel universe.
no. Even in the Marvel universe, I don't know. I'm more of a Dormammu fan than I am a
Dormammu.
than I am. No, I'm not even joking.
You like Dormammu?
Dormammu was.
You know,
like,
actually, who I'm surprised isn't on your list is Electro.
You
yes,
know,
I've spoken of my love of Electro. And,
Yeah.
well, keep going. I'm sorry.
Well,
You're the only person I've met who has like a very strong positive opinion of Electro. People, I don't hate him.
Sure.
Most people don't hate him.
Right.
I don't really think anything of him.
I love Electro. It's weird to say, but mostly because of Bendis's
New
like
Avengers?
initial New Avengers. Like that first scene with Electro is like, do you want the costume or no costume? And they say they're hiring him to break people out of Riker's Island or
Whatever.
the raft
Yeah.
specifically. And he asks, do you want me to wear the costume or not wear the costume? And the people hiring him say it doesn't matter, and he says, "Costume it is."
This
He
is the scene you always bring up.
He
I
is
love that.
so fully aware of how ridiculous he is, but he fucking loves it.
You know what I love about that is that it's one specific scene that like said everything about that character to you, and you fell in love with that character.
Oh my
that's,
God.
that's really cool.
What was interesting is as I was reading these polls online.
And that's part of the reason I hated the Amazing Spider-Man 2 so much.
is Electro was always lower on the list than Mysterio. And I was just curious what you guys think about that. That Mysterio had more clout than
Yeah, you know what?
Electro.
I actually like Mysterio more. I like the way that he can mess with reality
Yeah.
and stuff like
You
that.
think so?
He creates these trippy storylines, you know? I mean, there's something kind of cool about
I feel like he's just a distraction.
have you read Guardian Devil, the Kevin Smith Daredevil stuff?
No.
There's a really cool Mysterio scene in that.
Interesting.
It's a great Daredevil comic you should check out.
Also, I
kind of kicked off.
I
the
really
Bendis
love
and
Electro's
Kubrick.
power set. Like the whole controlling
it's a cool
and can
power
like
set.
become electricity. That's super
Yes,
cool.
that actually is my favorite part of it, is that he can travel along electrical currents.
Like Livewire is one of my favorite villains from the Superman animated show because she has Electro's power set.
Yeah.
yeah. No, Livewire was cool. Cool. So, is there anything else we want to say about how we want to wrap up?
Well, I had
about the
one.
bad-
I had
oh.
one more thing just to see what you guys think about.
sure.
Another thing. Again, so this was all after I did my
Yeah.
list. But somebody who was ranked very highly on a lot of lists was Catwoman. What do you think about that?
You know, I thought about this because I love Catwoman.
Me too.
I don't really think of her as a villain.
That's
No.
what I thought too.
She's a minor burglar at best.
She looks out for herself.
She at this point in the comic, she's really just a superhero.
Right.
She
she's
looks
with
out
Batman.
for herself. She's more like a vigilante.
Yeah.
Or
She's
a
a Robin
mercenary
Hood figure. So like she steals from the
Yes.
rich to give to herself, but
who is poor sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean that's the thing though. But I mean, and her relationship with Batman is so great. She's the love interest for Batman.
yeah.
Well, and she takes care of a lot of the people
Right.
who she knew growing up. I mean, there's
There's
all
the
that
good
too.
outweighs the bad so much.
But
with
she
her.
would be like
Especially
on a
at
list
this
of
point.
100. She'd be
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Like-
number 12, and I'm like, a
because she's an
villain?
amazing character, but she is not a villain
Has
to me.
Catwoman
Okay,
ever
good.
walked up behind someone and slashed their throat and went, "Wah ha ha ha"?
Never.
Right.
She's killed, but only in defense.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And in
Okay.
defense of Batman. I mean, like that's
I'm glad that
the
we're all on
ultimate
the
thing to be
same
in defense
page.
of, in my opinion. In defense of Batman.
In Defense of Batman is John's autobiography.
Well,
Who am I defending him against?
the
Who's got a problem?
The world.
the problem
John.
with that though is that Batman was never defenseless. You know, like
Right.
It's like, oh no, Batman, look out! He's like, I already did. You know.
I did that a year ago.
Yeah, exactly. I know how
care
to
of that.
not be dead. So
Yeah, no, I don't
I don't think. Okay, good. I'm just glad that we're all in agreement with that
No.
because that kind of blew
No,
my
I,
muffin.
I love Catwoman.
my mind.
Okay, so I think that wraps up our villains.
Discussion on villains.
We talked about the villains.
We'll always be discussing villains because they're always the most interesting people. But until that day comes where this podcast ends, for now, this is our primary discussion on villains.
Yes. Now let's turn things over to our recommendation segment. What are we liking this week, guys? I'm gonna start with you, Gorgoni.
This week, let me think. I have just finished rereading all of Hellboy and BPRD.
Wow.
The entire run of it, yeah.
That's a
Well,
lot.
BPRD is still going, but
Yeah, that's a lot.
Hellboy is kind of done, sort of.
Isn't Hellboy in hell
Yeah,
going?
he's kind of dead in hell at this point. But yeah, no, it was an undertaking. I will say that. Thank you, Kindle,
Oh, yeah,
for
yeah,
having
yeah.
it all in
Yeah,
one little
yeah.
space.
Yeah,
But yeah, goddamn, Mike Mignola.
he's fantastic.
All the Hellboy stuff, all the BPRD stuff. I know he's not the only one responsible for all that
Right.
stuff,
But he's the
certainly
central creative voice
Right.
of that. So
I can blame him for a week's worth of staring at
Yeah.
awesome Gothic images.
yeah. Have you read Gotham by Gaslight?
Yes, I've
Yeah.
also read that.
Which is fantastic.
But yeah, if you haven't read Hellboy or
Oh,
the BPRD
do
stuff,
it.
I mean,
I can't say I've read all of it because there's a lot.
there's a lot
I
at this
intend
point.
to read all of it.
Especially when you start getting into the spin-off stuff like the stuff with Professor Broom. Like you got the old 1946 BPRD stuff.
Sledgehammer.
You get Sledgehammer. You get like the Baltimore stuff. There's so much of it, and I went through most of it.
I won the first issue of Sledgehammer 44 at a comic convention
Oh, sweet.
in a raffle.
But yeah, if you haven't read those, highly recommend because Hellboy is amazing.
Yes, yes, it is. Donovan.
Well, as with last week, I'm still reading Powers. Mm-hmm. And I also started...
How's that coming along? Are you almost done?
Not quite.
Still good though.
Still great.
Yeah.
Still really good. Still, yeah, it's awesome. The next thing I've been reading is Avengers World Trust, which is Jeff Johns taking over,
Yes.
number 67, I think is what it picks up.
Yeah, I did know he wrote Avengers. I haven't read it.
So far, it's so good. It's
Awesome.
little pockets of the Earth being stolen away, including major
Carmen
cities.
Sandiego, isn't it?
It's exactly Carmen Sandiego.
I knew it.
But the
Where in the world is she?
everywhere,
Budapest.
the
Series over.
it's the last place you look. But the UN, like 130 of the 198 people are all vanished, and so they turn everything over to the Avengers, and Captain America essentially take care of the entire world, like rule the world essentially. Like Captain America's, Iron Man's taking care of like financial situations around the world and like making sure that economic collapse isn't going to happen. Anyways, it's awesome. And then at the same time, there's this alternate storyline of in these dimensions that they've gone to that Yellow Jacket and Wasp are now stuck in. Anyways, it's super.
That sounds awesome.
It's really fun.
That sounds great.
It's really fun,
I
and
need
it was
I need to check that out.
Yeah, it was a collected thing of Avengers World Trust by Jeff Johns.
Very cool. Yeah, not much known about the Jeff Johns Marvel stuff.
Yeah, that's why I picked it up.
Yeah,
I was
yeah, very cool. Something I just read recently is it's a miniseries called Captain America: Living Legend. It's by Andy Diggle with art by excuse me while I butcher this name, Adi Grabnov.
nailed it.
Whatever.
The old Dutch graph novels.
Yes,
No, it's the Connecticut Grabnovs.
See, I'm unfamiliar.
Yeah, they're an American legacy.
just the
It's fine.
Dutch.
Just
Grab
Dutch.
No, it's a really cool comic about this Russian cosmonaut who got infected by this crazy thing on the dark side of the moon.
Like you do.
And he's been in this facility in Siberia for like decades. And a U.S. satellite crashes out there, and they send Cap to figure out what's going on. And this thing, it's nuts. It's kind of like Alien.
Fun.
Or The Thing,
Yeah.
but with Captain America
Cool.
and a bunch of Russian soldiers.
Does what's the Russian superhero team?
Oh no, they don't show up.
Oh,
No, it's just Russian army guys.
dang.
It's cool because bullets do nothing to affect it. The guy can create these like beans out of the crazy black stuff that infects his mind. Nothing can kill them except the vibranium shield.
Cool.
So they just slash them apart with that.
Seriously though, what is the name of the Russian superhero team? I'm blanking on it.
You got me on that. Too.
Damn it.
I wouldn't know.
Shit. Oh, god damn it. This is going to
They
bother
don't
me.
come up enough
right.
in what I read.
I'm gonna talk about another comic. See if
Okay.
you can. The other comic that I just recently read is it's called Alex plus Ada. It's by Jonathan Luna and Sarah Vaughn. It's an image book. It's about a guy, near future world, and a guy gets a robot companion, and it's sort of about the struggle to make her sentient and not just subservient to him. It's this really cool. It's a love story, which is not super common in comics. It's uniquely a romantic story. It's a cool sci-fi romance. Beautiful art.
You said Sarah Vaughn.
It's written by Jonathan Luna and Sarah Vaughn, and then Jonathan Luna is also the artist.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah.
What is this comic called?
It's called Alex plus Ada.
Alex Bleda. I've heard of this. I want to check it out.
It's very good.
You have the first trade?
I have the first trade.
Might need to borrow that.
Yeah, I can loan that to you. And it comes. Second trade is coming out soon, so I highly recommend it.
The Russian superhero team
Oh, here we go.
is the Winter Guard.
Ah,
Makes sense.
At least in the trade that I'm holding, it features Red Guardian, who's like the Russian Captain America, Crimson Dynamo, Russian Iron Man,
of course.
Dark Star, who I'm completely unfamiliar with, and Ursa Major, who is clearly some sort of bear man.
Not to be confused with Ursa Minor.
No, he's a little bear fellow.
That's
He's a
that's
cub.
what. Yeah, exactly. Cubs.
All right, so I think that does it for this week's episode of Panel on Panels. I'm John Campbell.
I have been Mike Gorgoni.
And I will always be Donovan Eilert.
Keep reading comics, everybody.
Thanks for listening, and be sure to subscribe to us on iTunes. Also, you can follow us on Twitter @PanelOnPanels, as well as on Facebook @PanelOnPanels, or email us panelonpanels@gmail.com.